Hey, MotoAmerica fans, this is Paul Carruthers. I'm the communications manager for MotoAmerica, and this is our weekly podcast, Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. As I mentioned, I'm the Carruthers half. The more handsome half resides in Ohio, and we'll bring him in. Sean Bice, how are you today?
You're definitely the more handsome half. There's no doubt about that. I won't argue. Maybe my mom might argue, but that might be about it. I know my wife won't. So,
Oh, how sweet is she?
you know how she is. No, everything's good, Paul. It's funny that the guests that we're having on today, I mean, I don't know why we always act like we got to say, you're going to talk about it, but
It's not a secret.
Yeah, I know. But Jake Lewis, it's funny. He's been on, man, 3 or 4 times at least. It's because the kid's always got some interesting news for us, and he's always doing different things. So, we can't help it have him on, but perfect timing to have him on now after the announcement of the team that just happened. So this is good. Plus he's out there in your neck of the woods right now. So that's very cool.
Yeah, I guess he flew out here this morning from Kentucky, and now he's in Southern California. So he's probably dealing with a little culture shock. But let me introduce him real quick. Jake Lewis is our Stock 1000 champion. It just seemed like yesterday that he was started, had a Superbike ride, got injured, lost the Superbike ride, ended up bouncing around a little bit, spent some time on the couch, got himself back in shape, and came out last year and won the Stock 1000 championship. And it shows what a little hard work and determination and good timing to make up for some bad timing earlier has resulted in him getting a Superbike ride with the Vision Wheel M4 ECSTAR Suzuki team. It was announced recently. Jake won 6 times last year in Stock 1000, including the last 4 in a row, and that earned him the title and a nice fat $25,000 check. Sean, I talked to Richard Varner, who handed him the check, and he said that actually came out of your pay. So I don't know how pumped you are, but Jake is pumped. So Jake, first of all, welcome to Southern California, and congratulations on not only your championship, but turning that into another shot at the Superbike class.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. First of all, like you guys were saying, I think it's like my 3rd or 4th time, so must be pretty important. But I hope this time is for sure the best one. And with some exciting news, like you were saying, it's feels awesome to be back in the Superbike class on what I feel like is going to be the best Superbike I've rode. I'm really excited. Everything has kind of came full circle. Like you said, I was factory Superbike in 2015 with the MotoAmerica Suzuki guys, my rookie year, and had a good year that year and learned a lot, and was looking forward to 2016. And then we all know what happened, breaking my shoulder there, and then also, my wrist. And Tony came over, and that season was definitely one of the toughest of my career. And luckily, I've been around the sport a while and stuck it around there for a few years. And then, 2020 took a year off pretty much. And it was good to come back last year and get back in the series and get back to doing what I love. And it was nice to win that stock championship, and now back on the Superbike. So excited for this year for sure.
It's funny because I've been doing these Daytona stories where I review 2 years at a time, and I've gone through since the beginning of the Superbike class racing at Daytona, and kind of a preview to get us ready for our 200. And I think, I don't know, it was 1 or 2 stories ago that there was a young Jake Lewis on the podium at Daytona. And I don't know, that seems like so long ago to me. And I don't know if it feels like it's a long time to you or just yesterday, but Sean, I got to tell you, he looked like the tallest 12-year-old I've ever seen.
Yeah. It's funny about Jake. I can't remember if I've told you this before, Jake, but the first person I ever talked to about you was Earl. Earl talked to me. That was back when I was doing some stuff with Next Moto Champion, and he had gotten in touch with me, and he was working with you and stuff. I think we may have talked about this before, but and you were, then I got to find out about how you were racing. You and Nick McFadden were racing with Garrett Gerloff, and it seems like it wasn't all that long ago, like Paul said. And then you were on the podium in that Daytona 200 that year with the motorsport.com means motorsports Yamaha, I think. Is that right, Jake?
Yeah, that was heck, a long time ago now, back in 2014. And I saw that picture too and looked like a baby for sure. And heck, I was little back then. And that was a good year for me in 2014 in the 600 class. It actually went down to the last round for the championship between myself and Jake Gagne, and was able to grab a couple 600 wins that year and just had a whole lot of fun. In 2013, I was able to do the 200, but I went out 7 laps in. I had a mechanical, and in 2014 had a pretty good race and ended up third. And that was a good season for me. And heck, I unfortunately not going to be doing the Daytona 200 this year. It's on 600s now, and a little bit too big for those bikes now, I feel like.
Jake, we've had you on a few times, and I never run out of questions to ask you because there's so many things I'm sort of fascinated with how your career has gone. But I want to talk, I remember before we talked about you, it was a little while with a previous deal that you had before you found out about it. And you were saying, I think it's sort of the way it goes with whether it was, I think it was maybe when you raced with M4 last time in Superbike. But this time, did you know ahead of time? Have you known for a while? And was it just a matter of when they were going to announce it?
Honestly, I haven't known a long time. Obviously, everyone says it's the worst kept secret in the paddock, but it was surprising to me, after the last race at Barber last year, on Monday morning, after the last race and before the banquet, I think at 8 a.m., Chris called me and John was on the line, and they're like, "How are you feeling?" Because I was out, celebrating with my friends and other buddies that race, and they were just said, "Hey, look, you're on our radar for Superbike. We're gonna put that out to you." And it was, back and forth there for about a month or so, and then still hadn't really heard or confirmed anything. And I was wearing out John and Chris's phone, just because I wanted the opportunity so bad to get back on that bike. Ever since they got those bikes in 2019 or for 2020 it was, I wanted to try it because I know how good the bike was when Roger and Tony rode it at Yoshimura and all the trick parts on it. So, I felt like the time was right for me to join the team, and definitely wanted to get on that bike. So like you said, I was just wearing out their phones and doing everything I could to put myself in the seat.
And how were you surprised about Richie? I think it caught a lot of fans by surprise. They didn't expect that, especially since obviously Team Hammer had made that announcement that he was going to be racing in Super Sport. And we've been thinking for a while now that Richie would be good to see what he could do on, in the premier class on a Superbike. But is this something that you found out recently, or had you known that for a little bit too?
It was honestly kind of back and forth there for a while, and I tried to stay out of it. I just tried to focus on myself and my deal. And obviously, they were trying to make the best decision for the team and figure out what they could figure out, and going back and forth between 2 or 3 guys, for that second seed. And I had known, for a couple of weeks now that it was going to be Richie, but I think he'll do great stepping up to the Superbike. He's been going fast for the past 2 or 3 years on the 600 and riding at a really good level. So I'm excited to have him as a teammate. I don't really know him too well, but he seems like a nice guy, and hopefully we can push each other to be at the front of the pack for sure. And, a lot of people had questions and asked me about Bobby, and unfortunately, it looks like he's going to be taking a new career path. And, I called him and I was like, I know what it feels like to be in his shoes and not being in a Superbike seat for next year. And it's definitely tough, and just tried to be there for him. Mentally it's the biggest thing. We've been chasing a Superbike dream since I was 4 years old, and I'm just fortunate to be in the spot I'm in for this year.
So Sean, talking about Escalante and the team, I was just looking back at a text I sent Jake last week. I'm like, hey, who's your teammate? I won't tell anybody. He's like, how many people have been asking me that? I said, yeah, I bet. He was really good at just evading the answer. He goes, you'll see soon. He said, who would be your guess? I said, well, apparently it's a rookie, which throws me off because I can't think of that many. I would say Escalante, but he's already Super Sport. And he says, yeah, he said, yeah, he's Super Sport. And he's just, I'm like messing with him so hard, and he still wouldn't. The whole time, he never gave in. I said it has to be Richie, and he said, no, he's already signed up for Super Sport.
Yeah, you can. I mean, obviously I couldn't share the news, and the team, like I said, John and Chris have been honestly working their butts off to put together a good program for us on the Superbike, and then the 600 and the Stock 1000 as well. And like the press release said, we have a new title sponsor on board, which is a huge deal for the team. And we actually went there to the warehouse and met the owners and everything to do the photo shoot, and kind of blew me away how big Vision Wheel was. I had heard of them from Jeff May last year, but until you actually go there and see what they do and what they're about, you don't really realize the sponsors you have. So it was pretty cool to do that.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the reason you're out in Southern California. Apparently, you're going to do a little bit of riding, which is always a good thing to do in the off season, since you probably don't get to do much back home.
Yeah, for sure. The main reason, is just coming out here to test, and I'm honestly super pumped about that because, previous seasons when I was on the Superbike, we didn't really get to do a whole lot of testing. And like I said, John and Chris and the whole Vision Wheel M4 ECSTAR Suzuki guys have been working their butts off to get the bikes ready. And they actually left 2 of the Superbikes out here on the West Coast. So we're going to be doing a little bit of testing, a couple of days at Chuckwalla, and then a couple of days at Buttonwillow with Attack. And I think Matthew with Westby is going to be there as well. So it'll be good to, get out and ride in some warm weather. It's been absolutely freezing back home. And it's nice to get out here on the West Coast where it's 85 degrees right now, and looking forward to doing some riding and start, getting in racing mode.
You can't tell anybody about the weather because we don't want anybody else moving out here.
That's right.
I would rather live in Kentucky for sure. Everything, the first gas station I saw gas was like $5. So y'all can have that.
There is that. So Jake, you obviously you rode Stock 1000, so it's not like you're going from a super sport bike to a super bike, but is it getting back on a super bike when you do so this week? Is it does it feel really, will it feel really different, or is it just a little bit different than the Stock 1000?
It's hard to tell, because I haven't rode this bike before, and it's going to be a lot different than the super bike I rode back in 2019. But I think it'll be a lot different because the stock bike, I rode last year, it really didn't have much. You can't do much in the stock class as far as rules go nowadays, besides, suspension, maybe a little bit of engine work, and the electronics are pretty basic. So, these super bikes that they have, have the best electronics you can get. It has a swing arm, good forks, good brakes, and it's just a total package. And I'm excited to get on it just to see what it feels like and see how it handles. And most of all, I think it's gonna be really fast. The stock bikes, like I said, weren't the fastest compared to the super bikes last year. I remember the test at Coda when we came onto the back straightaway. I came on the back straightaway with Peterson and Fong, like when they were on the bikes. And it's huge amount of time just on the straightaways and how well those bikes come off the corners. And it's just a crazy amount of difference in the bikes nowadays. When I rode the stock bike in 2017, they were a little bit closer to the super bike spec and we could somewhat keep up. But nowadays, unless you're on a super tight track, it's really hard to keep up with the super bikes.
Yeah, Jake, I want to talk a little bit about Altus Motorsports because, it's not like this is a secret, but it's something that's not really all that well known, I don't think. And I'm not taking anything away from Altus at all. Eric Gray and those guys do a fantastic job. But it's interesting that Team Hammer actually has quite a bit of involvement with the mechanical aspects of the bikes on that team. Now, for instance, they build and service the bikes. They have a service program after a certain number of hours or whatever, they'll get them serviced through M4. And I know that you kind of had a quasi Hammer bike last year. So you were sort of in the fold anyway, a little bit. And it just seemed interesting because the way it went with Cam Peterson and him winning his championship, and then he went to the Superbike team. Did you, when you took that job took the ride with Altus, did you have was there any discussion or any expectation that, okay, if I win this championship, then it looks like because of what's happened before, I'm going to possibly get this opportunity to ride the Superbike?
honestly, personally, like for me, that was the plan. But, as far as the team, I'm not sure. But at the beginning of last year, I didn't even picture myself or think of myself being on a superbike this year. My only focus was to try to win as many races and most importantly, try to win the championship for the Altus guys. That's what they hired me to do. And luckily we got the job done. But at the end of the day, looking at what Cam was able to do going from the stock bike at Altus to the Superbike at M4, I kind of wanted to take the same path and hopefully, get the same results. He had a hell of a season last year, finishing third in the points and was able to win a race, and he rode really good on the bike. And hopefully, I can do the same. But, we didn't, even when I signed with Altus, they do get support and help from Team Hammer, but it wasn't like I hadn't really even talked to John or Chris at that time. I wasn't like planning on taking a spot on the Superbike for this year.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. It's more the bike than it is the rider or the team. I mean, they're pretty hands off with that team. And I know the Nissanis have a real good relationship with the Elriches, and that situation works out well. But yeah, I want to make sure that's understood. It's more just about, the bike and everything. Do you have any idea, was the bike that you had this past year, was it Cam Peterson's old bike, or was it a different bike altogether?
No, I mean, honestly, it was the exact same.
Okay.
When I first rode the bike, it was at down in Texas. I had rode the bike for a day or two, and it had the exact same setup and same everything from Cam Peterson. And obviously, they freshened it up here and there. And we went away from his setup and, did some things that fit me better and suited more my style. But it was the same bike. I think the bike is actually like a 2018, or I don't know what year model it was, but it definitely wasn't like brand new and had the freshest of parts on it. But I know at the end of the year they sold that bike and are starting fresh for next year or for this year.
It's funny, it's been interesting about you with these various iterations of this Suzuki GSXR 1000. You had mentioned, of course, that you were with Yosh and you were on essentially a factory Suzuki. And I remember when you were racing Superbike for M4 on the Team Hammer bike. And I even talked to Chris Ulrich about this, but just look, you go over and you look at the bike that Tony was riding, and then you look at the bike you were riding. They weren't the same. They weren't even close. I mean, they were close, but you know what I'm saying? The swing arm was different. There were so many things that I was surprised were so different about that Team Hammer bike. So then you go into a stock 1000 Suzuki, and it's obviously they've had newer models since then. So some things have changed, but do you know if this bike that you're going to have this coming year, is it closer to what, is it a factory Suzuki, and is it closer to what probably Yosh would be racing if they were still involved today?
I believe so. I mean, it's not identical to what Roger and Tony raced at Yosh, but it's definitely pretty close. They've made a few. They're running Suter swing arms now and running a few, obviously M4 exhaust and a few different parts here and there. But as far as what I rode back in 18 and then especially 19, 2019, we switched to electronics and had a hell of a tough time with those electronics in 2019. So it was definitely a tough year. But this bike, I mean, like you said, they got them back in 2017 straight from Japan, and they were so much different than what I was riding. But the average fan, watching on TV, they're like, why isn't he up there battling with Roger and Tony? I mean, he's on a Suzuki and pretty much the same bike. But I mean, as if you're a racer and follow racing at the races, I mean, you can look at that bike and that bike, and I mean, it was a heck of a difference. This bike they have now has really good forks, like you said, a swing arm, the best shock you can get, the best electronics, and it's really the best of the best as far as Suzuki goes. So that's why I'm just so excited to ride it, because I know the level of equipment it has now, and the crew they put together for me this year is really good. We had a Google Meet last week with all the new guys and some new faces for me, which is exciting, and some smart guys as well. And I've heard nothing but good things about them. So excited, kind of for a fresh start for myself. And then again, being back with M4, it feels good to be back.
Well, and this So you raced in Stock 1000 and Superbike Cup last year, which meant that you raced in Superbike races on your Stock 1000 bike. And a lot of fans know this, but we'll talk about the fact that the differences are you get bigger on a Superbike, you have bigger forks, more compliant, more adjustments on the forks and different triple clamps. So there's some different things with the suspension, certainly the swing arm and a few other things, certainly the electronics as well as a huge deal. You didn't have that last year, but you acquitted yourself well when you're out there in Superbike. So can you describe when you're on that Stock 1000 bike and you get on a Superbike like you're going to, is it a big difference even though it's essentially the same model?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's not even comparable, really. What we race in the Stock 1000 is pretty much, a club level guy's bike. You can go build the bike for pretty cheap. It has, like I said, it has suspension on it, a tad bit of, electronics, and then really that's about it. But, Superbike, you have different wheels, you have different swing arm, you have different electronics, different forks, faster engine. I mean, it's just incredible how nice and how advanced the super bikes are nowadays. If you don't have all of those good parts and go fast parts, I mean, you're not going to win races and run in the front. Even when I was at M4 back in 18 and 19, we didn't have the best shock. And, I remember in 18, I was, right around that half second range from Roger, Tony, Bobier, Gerloff, and we had to talk with the Oleans guy, and they were like, hey, if you buy this shock, it's going to be 2 to 3 tenths a lap faster over race distance. And I mean, when you're just looking for that small of margin, I mean, that makes a big difference, but it's expensive parts. And the team back then, didn't quite have the budget to have and buy all the fancy stuff. But nowadays, the bike that I'm going to be on, there's no excuses for me. And that's why I'm just like fired up to get on the bike and the team, is just because I'll have no excuses. And like I told my mom and even told the Orches, I was like, just give me one more chance on this equipment to prove what I have and to go all in, because 2 years ago I was sitting on the couch and felt what it felt like to kind of live a normal life away from racing, and I didn't really enjoy that at all, and was definitely a different person. So now, it brings me like I'm thankful for where I'm at, and racing motorcycles is one heck of a job.
Well, and also, Jake, this time around, for sure, you're the lead rider on that team. I mean, obviously, you have the most experience. You have raced in Superbike. You understand the electronics. This is all going to be new to Richie, and we wondered about that. We've gotten to know Richie pretty well, Paul and me, just because he's been on the podium so often that we get a chance to talk to him a fair amount. And his development of his language skills has just gotten better and better every year, and he's just a delightful kid. I mean, he's terrific to be with, and I think it's going to be so awesome to have him as a teammate. And I think it's a huge benefit to him that you have such a great demeanor, and you'll be able to work with him and help him along as well. But you must be really looking forward to kind of getting back to looking at all those squiggly lines, and because you understand that stuff and know what you need to do to go fast. So it's going to be interesting. Do you think you'll mentor a little bit with Richie?
It's hard to tell, because I don't think he's ever actually rode 1,000. I mean, he might have at a track day, but I'm sure he definitely hasn't rode a proper super bike. So it'll be interesting to see how fast he gets up to speed. And I mean, obviously there's a big learning curve for him, but even for me, jumping on these electronics, I haven't rode Magneti Borelli since 2015 when I was with Yosh. So obviously the main focus, you have to focus on yourself and be the best that you can. But obviously Richie's a rookie, and he'll be fresh and have a lot of motivation to do good. But that's the first person you want to beat, your teammate. And I feel like both of us will be riding at a high level this year, and it'll make things interesting. He is the same age as me, and I'm sure we both have a big fire inside of us to battle for the podiums and race wins. That's at least always the plan.
So Sean, to make a long story short, he's not going to help him at all.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm gonna help him as much as I can, but at the end of the day, we're there to do our job and my job, and You know, I have a good crew around me of 5 or 6 guys that have a good fire inside of them that want to see me do good, and they put together a good crew for me. And I mean, right now I'm just focusing on myself and looking forward to seeing what I can do. But like I said, I know Richie a little bit, and he's a super nice guy, and looking forward to having him as a teammate and just seeing what we can push each other to accomplish.
Now, you mentioned all the electronics and all the cool stuff that Superbikes have on them. Is as a rider, and I don't know how what your level is as far as understanding electronics and understanding all that stuff, but like it seems to me like honestly, as a rider, it would be easier to jump on a stock 1000 and go fast as opposed to going really fast on a Superbike with all the stuff that goes with it. In other words, I've seen guys in the past, like they're really good on super sport bikes and they make a jump to a super bike and they kind of get lost and they go down different rabbit holes. Is that can happen, right? I mean, is that when you have to really rely on a crew chief to keep you on the path that you need to be on? Because it seems like you could go the wrong way with things.
Oh, for sure. You know, honestly, it's huge just because, like you said, you can go backwards in a hurry, and there's so many things going on with the Superbike where you can get yourself in trouble and just go backwards and go slower, really. But that's what you rely on the crew for, and that's what they hire. You know, I call them the nerds to run the electronics, and those guys are, you know, staring at the computer for hours on end, you know, before and after we ride, and it's up to us as riders to give those guys good feedback and know what we're talking about as well. You know, you definitely don't want to make a wrong change and go backwards. But even during the session, you know, as a Superbike rider, you know, you're out there thinking about different things, whereas on a stock bike, you know, you're just hammering down the whole session. But on a Superbike, you know, you can break this track down section by section as far as, you know, traction control, wheelie control, engine braking. So it's going to be a big learning process for me again, but I'm excited and looking forward to the challenge just because I know what the bike is capable of, and you know, I just hopefully I can do good.
When you look over the nerd's shoulder at that computer screen, is it anything other than squiggly lines to you? Because I look at it and it's like I have no clue what they're talking about, and I don't need to know. But with you, is it kind of the same, and you just put your trust in them? You tell them what you think, and then allow them to do the work with the computers?
Yeah, for me, that's how it is. I mean, some guys are more hands-on and understand the squiggly lines definitely more than I do. I mean, I just go out there and ride the bike as good as I can and give the best feedback that I can. But I do understand a little bit of the squiggly lines, but not a lot. You know, I just, like I said, I try to fill out a track map and give them the best notes that I can, and yeah, just trust them. Like I said, they put a hell of a crew behind me for this year, and I'm looking forward to, you know, I have 2 good mechanics, a good electronics guy, and then also a good crew chief. And I think Chris is going to be pretty involved, you know, this year. He's pretty fired up himself. You know, I went to the shop last week and met one of my new mechanics and saw the bike and the new colors, and just kind of get you fired up a little bit more. Just new exciting things are happening.
Jake, can you tell us who your crew is going to be?
Yeah, so my crew chief is James Siddall, and I think they were saying he hasn't been in the paddock since I think 2012 or 2013 it was.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I hadn't met him, and I was FaceTiming and Zoom meeting and with him last week, and so he's my crew chief. And then Ben Fox is going to run the electronics, who I have a really good relationship with, and he's more like a friend to me, and he's motivating me a lot. You know, he's excited for this opportunity for himself, and, you know, especially for me. And he's just been texting me every day to keep working hard and get my ass in shape, because, you know, this year's there's no excuses. And then my 2 mechanics are Tony Pogue, who I worked with, you know, back in my first 600 days. And then even he was my Superbike mechanic back in 18 or 19. And then we brought him on halfway through last year on the stock program, and you see what happened. You know, once he came on board, I didn't get beat, and I wanted to bring him over to M4. So he'll be one of the mechanics. And then Josh Alverson, who I hadn't met before, he's going to be the other mechanic, but he has a heck of a lot of an experience. And I met him at the shop last week, and he was just going over the bike, and man, he was so fired up. And that just kind of, you know, made me even more excited to have a good group of guys around me who are just as excited as I am and going to work hard to achieve good results.
Yeah, that's cool about Josh. I've known him for a while. I mean, he's been in different paddocks, different teams for a while. I mean, he's a two-stroke guy from way back. But I know for sure he's been around, worked with Honda a bunch and everything. That's a good guy to have. And for sure, Ben Fox, I mean, I know, boy, he thinks a lot of you. I mean, I see his posts on over the years on Facebook, and he talks about you. And I know you guys are close. So that's good that you've got him in your corner, because for sure he understands you and you understand him. And that chemistry is very important. So that's good to hear that your crew is set up the way. And James, boy, he's like you said, that's been a long time. It's good to have him back in the paddock too. So you got a pretty stout crew there. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm excited. Chris and John put together like a good crew for me, and I hadn't actually ever even seen James around or knew what he looked like, but we had the whole crew, of those guys, and then John and Chris doing a Google Meet. And when James and Ben both got on the call, I was like, man, you guys are having a hair competition. They were rocking the slick back, gray hair and everything. So it'll be a good time. Obviously it's a business, but it's good to have good friends and be able to joke around, because at the end of the day, we're all there to have fun and do the best we can. So as long as we keep a good atmosphere, I think it'll be good.
Yeah, and I mean, what a great time for you to go back into Superbike. I mean, it's looking, there are still some team announcements that haven't come out yet that we know some things about, some we don't, but we do know that it's going to be a pretty stout grid. And obviously Danilo Petrucci coming in after Baz being with us last year. I mean, this is probably going to be this year the best and most talented grid we've ever had. So I'm sure you're excited to join the fray and get right back in there and mix it up with some truly world level talent. That's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the talent's going to be pretty unreal this year in Superbike. You'll have Gagne and Peterson on the factory Yamahas, and then obviously Skoltz is going really fast on the Westby bike, and they got some things figured out. Petrucci's coming over, then myself and Richie on the Suzukis, and then like you said, I heard there's a new BMW team coming with two talented guys. So definitely going to have to be on my A game, but I have a lot of belief in myself, and I'm just looking forward to getting out there and getting going. The first round's going to be at COTA with the MotoGP crew as well. So if that doesn't get you fired up, I don't know what will. And I'm really looking forward to kicking the season off there. Suzuki's always been a good bike around that place, and hoping to start the year off strong.
One of the things that amazes me the most this year, and I'm gonna do a little salesmanship this right now, just because I think about this brand. So you had mentioned last year that you had heard about Vision Wheel from Jeff May being sponsored by them, and I was the same way. And I asked him what it was, and he told me Aftermarket Wheels. And I mean, I ended up looking up the company, and oh my gosh, I was so excited about the wheels that they have. I have a little 2-wheel drive Tacoma, and I'm just waiting for the tires to wear out so I can replace the tires and I got some Vision wheels all picked out for it. They've got these nice 5-spoke matte black wheels for my 2-wheel drive Tacoma, and I am excited to have them. So that's a cool company. The guy that owns it apparently used to be in the paddock in some way. I know he's friends with John Ulrich a little bit, and so he's absolutely a motorcycle guy. And I'm sure, I know he was very thrilled to be working with Jeff last year. So working with you guys this year too is pretty good. It's always good to have a sponsor that has a lot of interest in the sport. And have you talked to the guy that runs that company yet? Or I'm sure you will at some point.
Yeah, actually I did. So when we went and did the photo shoot for the announcement and the bike and everything with the wheels behind it, we were at their head office, and we met the owner and another one of the higher ups, and they were super nice people, definitely into motorcycles, which is always a plus. And I think it's just good for the sport and good for the team to bring, like you said, someone kind of from outside the industry. And it was even more badass. I thought, they offered to give me a set of wheels for my truck, which I thought was cool. They told me to look on the website and pick out something, and they would hook me up. And it's just nice to have a good big sponsor, behind the team, allowing us to do more testing and, just to put together a good group of people for this year.
Yeah, and it's what a big change for the team. I mean, you always associate Suzuki mostly with blue and that lighter color blue, the darker color blue. And I know Roger ran during, I think it was their 50th anniversary. There was like a livery that was more of a red and black kind of thing, and it reminds me of that. But when it came out, Paul was making fun of me because I said, "Oh, look at the red." Well, there isn't as much red on it as there is black, and I'm colorblind anyway, but red's my favorite color. So I guess I noticed the red in the vision wheel, and I know red's part of M4's brand colors too. But it's just the bikes look completely different than they ever have in the past. It's kind of cool that you're going to get to ride this sort of really brand new thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, the bike definitely looks a lot different, and I think it looks good. Obviously, the black and red is going to show some more fingerprints than the blue did, and the blue definitely popped off a little bit better than this bike is going to. And just excited to be on something, different colors. And I sent it to a picture to Ben, who said, the bike looks pretty similar to when they were at Geico with Geico. I think that was 2013 and 2014, but I mean, I think the bike looks badass, and definitely a few people have commented that they like the change, and change is good sometimes for sure. And the team's excited, and the crew guys definitely going to have their microfibers out, keeping that thing clean.
Yeah, I like how Sean is colorblind, but has his favorite color is red. It's like, how do you? It's like if you can't taste, what's your favorite food? You shouldn't have any.
It's kind of a misnomer though, Paul. I mean, I'm not blind. I just don't see colors the same way everybody else does. But I can see, I do know red. Oh, it's just shades of colors. It's kind of tough. But I do know it's completely different than what it was last year, I guess, is what the point is there.
All right. Well, look, we all know that Jake actually had a real job last year, and it was UPS, right, Jake?
Yeah, I was there up until, about end of July, maybe 1st of August. And honestly, the job I was working in the warehouse unloading semis, and talk about one hell of a workout and just being frustrated at the same time. Those semis are baking in the Kentucky sun, 90, 100 degrees during the summer. And I didn't really enjoy that too much. And then especially when it came down to championship time, I was in a fight there after Laguna with only 4 or 5 more rounds to go. And I just needed to focus on to bring that championship home, and quit that job and finished out the season. And then in the wintertime, they have personal vehicle drivers, and I did that for a few months just to, make some money and have some fun during the winter. I mean, I enjoy, working at UPS, and it was a cool gig for sure. And being a driver was what I was kind of looking into, because I didn't think I was going to get back into racing, especially in 2020. I thought I was done and was just over it, really.
Did the guys you work with know what you did, like as a side gig?
I tried not to tell anybody, but it was mostly younger kids in there, at 19, 20 years old. So then of course they looked my name up on Instagram, and they're like, "Holy shit, dude, you're a motorcycle racer." And of course, kids at that age think you're making millions of dollars. But if that was the case, I damn sure wouldn't have been in there sweating my butt off unloading boxes. But it was fun to work in there, cutting up with those guys, and it was a good time for sure. But even the head guys, the manager at the warehouse, I mean, those guys knew what I did, and I was fortunate, they let me take off, the Thursday, Fridays, and even sometimes Mondays to go racing, and they understood my schedule, which was nice.
Yeah, and they probably also understood when you got to the point where you could tell them that you were done. Right? No more UPS for
me. Yeah, no more UPS for me. I said maybe I'll work out in the wintertime. But that's just a separate little contract through the wintertime. So I could even do that, from here on out if I can keep racing as long as I can. Definitely love this sport. And I think, being away from it kind of made you appreciate, motorcycles even a little bit more. I was listening to Hayden's podcast with you guys last week, and I think, he kind of realized that too. He was away from the sport for 2 years, and it's awesome to see him back and get a good opportunity to go after that Stock 1000 championship for sure.
Sean, you know why we have him on so often? Because he actually is a fan and listens to the show.
Yeah, exactly.
Every time I talk to him, he's like, "Oh man, that podcast you did with blah 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 was really good. I was on my bicycle or whatever."
Yeah, I took a break there for a little bit, but honestly, I'm enjoying podcasts a lot lately, and just listening to a few different podcasts, and just gives you something to pass a good hour or two by, and just, I don't know, it's cool.
Spotify's contacted Sean and I because, you know, they've got some issues over there and they might want us to just go full time. So it's part of the thing we're looking at. We're just trying to figure out what the taxes would be like on that big of a, you know, that much money.
Yeah, I mean, you can make the show longer because Sean for sure will ramble on. You know, he'll ask 7-8 questions in a row before you get a chance to say anything, Paul. That's why I like Sean. You can ask him for sure. Ask a lot of questions, and I mean, I'm like that too. I like talking to people and getting to know people better, and just being more of a fan. Like, interacting with the fans at the races is always good, and kind of gets people to know who you are a little bit better.
Yeah. And, this year in the paddock, I mean, I kind of got to know your mom a little bit better, Jake. She, I think because I would walk by Altus and she would be there and stuff. And she's a terrific lady. It's great. And will she be coming to the races as much as she has been?
Oh, for sure. She honestly doesn't even like to miss any races. She even to the West Coast, she flew out to Washington this year because we had never been to Washington, and that was one hell of a trip for sure. I mean, that's the hottest. I mean, that's the hottest I've ever been in my life. But she supports me, 100%, and that's why we kind of got into racing, because it was fun and more of a family thing. And then especially when my dad passed away, she doesn't want to miss another race and just supports me and cheers me on. And it was cool. The other day I got a text from a random number and just congratulating me on the ride and excited for me. And I was like, who is this? That's what I responded. And the only 2 words back were Wayne Rainey, which I thought was really awesome. And my mom and Wayne have had conversations, in the past. And I remember even Wayne saying to my mom, and dad back at COTA in I think it was 2018, it was like, they were just jumping up and down. And he was like, it's good to see parents get excited for their kids chasing their dream and just doing the best they can. That's at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, just getting into it and getting hyped up. Even George and Asani, he would get so excited when I would win. And for me, that means a lot, coming into the podium and everyone's excited, instead of just slowly clapping like, oh yeah, you won again. They were excited every time.
I mean, I love the fact I just saw you had posted on Facebook and George liked it, and I think he even commented on it. I mean, he feels real close to the riders that he's has on his team and has had on that team. So it's cool that you've got him in your corner as well, and Jeanette as well. I want to mention real quick about Hayden. You mentioned that we had him on the podcast last, and it's interesting. So he is going to be, of course, Stock 1000, and then he's actually racing full-on Superbike. So he'll be one of your competitors. You guys will be on the track at the same time. What's that going to be like for you?
I mean, it'll be good. Like I said, I'm excited to see him back for sure. And like I said, I mean, he'll no matter what, no doubt be one of the Stock 1000 title contenders. And as far as their Superbike program, I don't have a clue. What kind of bike they'll be on. I'm assuming it's going to be a Suzuki, but the level of equipment and the crew matters so much in Superbike. So I'll have to see what that's like first for.
Right.
To see, the level he's going to be at, but I'm excited to see him back in the pits, and I'm sure he'll enjoy it.
All right, Jake, I know, and this is even hard to say, but I know Josh Herron's waiting for you to actually work out, which
yeah, he's actually looking at me right now holding a ping pong paddle at the gym, and he said, damn, how long have you been on the call? So I don't know how long it's been, but I think he's ready to go.
How's his dad bod?
We're trying to train here.
Can you hear him?
Oh, there he is.
We're trying to train here.
Yeah.
I know Sean Bice likes to talk, but it's training time. Jake's out here to work out, and he's been on the phone the whole time.
We're going to let him go. If you leave us alone, we'll let him go.
Oh, you
Oh,
guys.
but he's getting ready for the 200, and he's excited for his new gig on the Ducati. And I sat around watching him do a little photo shoot for an hour, so he could give me an hour to talk to you guys.
Yeah, it's I think Daytona, it's gonna be a lot of fun. We're both looking forward to getting started, as I'm sure you are. And good luck, and be safe at your tests, and maybe stay away from the motocross bikes.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, I think that's for sure going to happen. Last year, I didn't really even moto that much. I have a track at my house with some turns in it, and rode a little bit. But I think this year, I think I'm not even probably going to ride dirt bikes hardly any, because I was even talking to Gagne last year, and he told me he hasn't rode a dirt bike in 2 years, just because of the injury and being sore and just the risk. It's not worth it, especially when the team's all in for you and spending the amount of money and time and effort they do. It's not taking that risk of getting hurt again.
Yeah, Jake, I'm sure Ben Fox is saying, stay out of the woods.
Mainly I get a text from him about every 2 hours. Or no, I'm just kidding. It's about every day though, about, I hope you're out there busting your ass. They obviously, I came into last year a little bit out of shape, but this year, there's no excuses for me. They're working hard. So I'm working hard to come into round one ready to go.
That's great.
I don't think you're out of shape, because round is a shape.
Yeah, round's a shape for sure. Yeah, but I did come into last season a little bit heavy, but I've never been one to fade in a race ever, really. So I can go out there and suffer and ride my ass off for 30 minutes, that's for sure. And
Absolutely.
There's no excuse. Coming into this year, ready to go, be lean and mean and
There you
skinny.
All right, boys. And we would be remiss to not mention the passing of Jason Aguilar this week. I know, Jake, I saw you at his pit often this year when he was working with, or last year, I'm sorry, when he was working with Michael Gilbert as his crew chief. I think you would fight me for animal crackers over there. He always had that nice big barrel of animal crackers, and they're the type of thing that you have one handful, and next thing you know, you've had 10 handfuls. So Jason is obviously going to be missed. We're extremely sorry and saddened, and pray for his family and his friends and everybody who knew him, and everybody who did know him is better from the experience, because he was truly a very nice young man. And I know you feel the same, Jake.
Yeah, for sure. When I first heard the news, it's kind of, just heartbreaking at first. And I can't imagine what his family and especially close friends are going through. Jason and I had a really good relationship this past year, and I had known him, years past, and we had mountain biked some out here on the West Coast. But this past year, if I wasn't in my pits, I was seriously just over there at Michael's pits shooting the shit with him and Jason. And, my girlfriend was actually on the way to school when she had found out and read the news, and I had texted Michael right away, just thinking about him. And definitely my thoughts are with his family for sure. And it's a tough situation, but at least he was doing something he loved, and he enjoyed life to the fullest for sure. At 25 years old, never saw that kid without a smile on his face and working hard at whatever he did. So that's kind of, something for everyone to think about, and just go through life. And, you never know when it's your time, as I've learned over the past few years. So I'm just trying to live my life to the fullest and enjoy every day.
Well, that's well said.
Well
So
said.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And you guys have a good day, and keep safe, and say hi to Heron for us.
Will do. Thanks for having me on, guys, and see you at COTA.